Welcome to the podcast. We're diving into some pretty radical ideas about Jesus. Like, was he really anti-family?
I'm pumped to get into this. So, we're talking celibacy and some of those harsh sayings about family ties, right?
Exactly. So it's interesting. The evidence from the text shows that Jesus was, well, almost certainly celibate. No wife, no any romantic subplot, unless you count that
Yeah.
weird, expensive foot massage incident.
And that in itself kind of sets the stage, doesn't it? Celibacy wasn't just a personal choice. It was something he actively preached.
Right. He actually encouraged celibacy. In Matthew 19:12, he mentions eunuchs who have made themselves eunuchs for the sake of the kingdom of heaven. I mean, that's not your everyday family-friendly message, huh?
Absolutely not. It's almost like he was saying, forget society's expectations. Kind of a call to break away from traditional family structures.
For sure. And then we hit that shocker in Luke 14:26, where Jesus pretty much tells his followers to hate their own family, father, mother, wife, kids, even themselves, if they
Wow.
want to follow him.
Hating your family? That sounds pretty radical. I mean, even by today's standards, that's like way out there.
Exactly. But here's the kicker. Jesus was preaching in an apocalyptic context. The idea was that the kingdom of God was imminent, so there was zero room for holding on to things that might slow you down, like family ties.
Yep. When you put it like that, it almost sounds like he was calling for a total uprooting of everything familiar. But doesn't that fly in the face of what most Christians believe today?
Totally. Modern American Christianity clings to these biblical family values: marriage, kids, stability, like they're the real deal. But if you look at Jesus' own words, it's like he was deliberately pushing against that.
Yeah, that's surprising. So, you're saying that while Jesus was celibate and even promoted celibacy, he was also kind of anti the modern idea of family?
Yep. In his teachings, he even says in Matthew 10:34-37 that he didn't come to bring peace but a sword, a spiritual sword that literally pits family members against each other. Picture that. Your loyalty to him over, well, your parents.
Right. Wow, that feels like a direct challenge not just to family dynamics, but to our whole social structure, right?
Exactly. And it's not just the Gospels. Look at Paul, for instance. In 1 Corinthians 7, he basically argues that marriage is a distraction. It's almost like he's running an Olympic no-sex marathon here.
But, I gotta ask, isn't it a bit extreme to say that Jesus was outright anti-family? I mean, couldn't his message have been misunderstood or taken out of context?
That's a fair point, and some scholars argue that Jesus was redefining family. By saying, "Whoever does the will of God is my family," he might have been promoting a spiritual family rather than a traditional biological one.
Yeah, I see. So maybe it wasn't about hating your parents in the literal sense, but more like putting your commitment to his message above everything else?
True. But then you've got these passages where the language is downright incendiary. When Jesus talks about letting the dead bury their dead in Matthew 8, it's not exactly tender. It's urgent, almost like a call for total, abandonment of earthly ties.
I get that urgency. But isn't there a risk of reading too literally into metaphorical language? I mean, sometimes ancient texts use hyperbole for effect.
That's a solid critique. There's debate over how much of that language was meant to be taken literally versus symbolically. But the fact that early Christians, like the Essenes and some monastics, actually took it literally, even to the point of castration in some cases, suggests there was a serious aspect to it.
So these early groups actually rejected the nuclear family model in favor of living apart from society entirely, huh?
Yeah, exactly. They were embracing a radical separation, walking away from the societal structures that most of us consider essential. It's like, opting out of mainstream life to pursue a higher calling.
That's pretty wild to think about. And it really puts today's family values on a different pedestal, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Modern evangelical Christians have sanitized these messages so much that the original intent gets lost. They often portray Jesus as the ultimate family man, when in fact his teachings were much more challenging.
Yeah, it almost sounds like the modern image is more of a cultural construct, kind of like the American dream, wrapped in Bible verses.
Exactly. It's like you've got a sticker saying biblical family values on a suburban ad, but when you actually read the text, it's not what you'd expect at all.
Right. And Paul, again, with his view, his idea that burning passion is so dangerous that marriage might actually be a distraction, really shows, a consistent thread of rejecting the traditional family setup as we now understand it.
Definitely. And what's even more provocative is that if Jesus showed up today with his original message, the reaction would probably be huge, like security at the megachurch
Yeah,
level.
that's for sure. It's almost like a time traveler delivering ancient, radical news to our modern sensibilities. That clash in values is so dramatic.
For sure. And it raises some really deep questions about identity and priorities. If following Jesus means giving up what many consider sacred, family, then you've got to ask, what's the real cost of discipleship?
And isn't it kind of ironic that today's Christians celebrate family values by using that labeling, while the texts themselves suggest a much tougher, almost countercultural approach?
Right, and that irony can't be ignored. It's, like someone designing a raincoat with holes in it. It's missing the mark on what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, I totally get that. I appreciate that analogy. But let me ask, do you think there's any middle ground? Can the idea of a spiritual family directed by loyalty to God coexist with a modern family model?
That's a tough one. I mean, some argue that redefining family to mean those who follow God's will offers an inclusive alternative to the traditional nuclear family, yet it still challenges the core of what many hold dear. It's like, trying to blend oil and water.
I see what you mean. That tension is what makes this discussion so compelling. It's not simply black and white.
Exactly. And it invites us to look at all our assumptions about family, commitment, and even identity. It reminds us that sometimes what we take as biblical might just be a modern reinterpretation, ignoring the gritty, radical roots of the message.
Right on. And that, in a nutshell, really flips our understanding of Jesus and his message. It challenges us to question what we see as normative, even when it's cloaked in sacred tradition.
Exactly. So if you're ready to keep digging into these inconvenient truths, buckle up. This conversation is far from over.
Yep,